I'm cheese. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I believe that we can win. Welcome into Riot presents Sports Talk with Cheese and Dre. Unfortunately, Dre is not with us this week. We'll be expecting his return next week. But today we're going to do our Super Bowl recap show, and we got a first-time guest. One of my best friends, and we played many football games together. My homie Kel.
What up?
Is in the building to talk some Super Bowl. So we're gonna get right into it. It was a physical game from the beginning, and I don't think the first play even set the tone. I think it was the Cam Chancellor hit that set that tone for the Seahawks, and nobody seen this coming. But as a receiver, as you're a former receiver,
Right.
when you get hit like that, that stays with you mentally, and your team, seemed like they were just discombobulated after that. And after the fumble, the bad snap on the opening play. So as a receiver, what does that do mentally to you going across that middle getting hit like that?
Well, the thing of it is unfortunately, you can't help but remember. You caught the pass and everything, you felt good, and next thing you know, you laying on your back looking up at the lights trying to figure out what happened. And that's exactly what happened to Demaryius Thomas.
And he's not a little receiver.
No, and I think by seeing that, his team kind of went, whoa, hey, these guys aren't playing around.
No, this is serious.
I think not only the Broncos, but as well the nation of viewers saw like, hey, these guys are for real. And they were bringing it. And they were there to play, to win. And they were not jacking around.
And it got to the 8-0. All that stuff went wrong, and they only had 8 points to show for it. And I kept getting that feeling like even when we were watching the game with Justin and all the homies, we were all sitting there like, okay, Peyton Manning is getting ready to make that play. It's going to happen.
I knew. I was just waiting. Okay, Peyton's fine. He's calm. He's gonna talk guys. They're gonna come down. Somebody's gonna make a play. Peyton's gonna throw it.
That never happened.
No, and really, the longer I sat there and waited for it to happen,
the more I kind of realized
the game got. And
it was a bad game.
Well, you knew with the way the Broncos offense has been all year long, you knew at some point in time during the season they were going to have a bad game. They just chose to have it at the worst,
at the worst
possible time ever.
The biggest stage in the world.
Because I mean, if you go back, and I don't have all the numbers right here in my face, but I'd be hard pressed to go back and see a game this season where the Broncos didn't even on a bad day find a way to get up 17 points and basically tell the defense, hey, we're going to go find 20 points today somehow, somewhere. Can you keep them to 17?
And the Broncos haven't been held under 20 points maybe all season.
That's my point. So you look at the Super Bowl, okay, yeah, they only found a way to barely muster 8 points, which really to me, even that 8 points.
It was a crap 8 points. It was a shutout.
It was a slot point. So to have that kind of a game on the biggest stage of the entire season, obviously, like you said, was the worst absolute time to have that happen during this season to a team who has literally
dominated.
Well, and not only that, but just, barely got on the field and said, okay, hey, you might as well give us 17 because that's the minimum we're going to put up today.
Exactly.
And it was just easy for them. And the Seahawks were like, hey, man, we don't care who you guys have done this to. We don't care who you've played this year. Our defense is tough. We're going to come out. We're going to hit you. We're going to cover these guys.
The lead
we're
of the boom was
going to pressure Peyton. You haven't seen Peyton have to scramble and run around like that at all this year.
And see, they had the best offensive line all year without their All-Pro left tackle.
Without Clady, yeah.
And they gave up 18 sacks. He was touched one time before the Super Bowl in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then now all of a sudden, there's guys in his face, his arms getting hit, and you could tell when Peyton's not on his spot. He was moving. He was moving a little early because he thought, and sometimes he wasn't even getting pressure.
Yep.
And then
he was anticipating pressure.
After that big hit, the interception that he threw over Julius Thomas' head, Julius Thomas looked like he was not interested in even going for the ball.
Well, and I'll admit that's one thing I've said. I didn't necessarily credit Peyton with those 2 picks because, like you said, the one, he's literally got his right tackle being shoved down his throat.
Yeah.
And then...
And did you see No-Shot Moreno standing there and just look at the ball like, oh, I hope the ball's going to come down. And then Michael Smith from right in front of him takes it.
And just takes it from him and says, see you later.
See, I would have choked him if he was on my team, for real. I'd
Well,
have grabbed him by the throat like, what are you doing? And you could tell that Peyton had that look like it's going to be a long day. And Peyton never has that look.
well, and see, and the bad thing was he had that look, like you said, from that beginning snap when he comes out and he's trying to make adjustments and the ball goes flying over his head. You could see it in his face. He was like, hey, what's going on? And he was already like, hey, wait a second.
And it was a champ. And the thing was, when you're playing, okay, you played in 3 state. We both played in 3 state championship games.
Right.
And at the beginning of the game, you so hyped you can't
channel it.
Yeah. And then for that to be the first play of the game of safety, it was like somebody just took a pen and was like, pop.
It just popped your balloon. Yeah.
And you seen it, and it like everybody was just shh, and everybody's kind of like.
And I've had that happen. Not to bring out football stories and make a big deal out of it, but I remember one of the playoff games you and I played in together, and the opening kickoff, the guy scored on us.
Yeah.
And
against
you went from being super excited to like, oh man, hold on.
I hope this ain't gonna be a sign of things to come.
Yeah, you find yourself in trouble early, and you're thinking, hey, wait a second, we can't let this. And I think that's what happened to the Broncos is that happened, and then instead of being able to right the ship, it was another thing after another thing after another thing, and it was like just a big thing of quicksand.
Speaking of quicksand, it was like the Broncos were in it because they were being smothered by the Seattle defense.
Yeah.
And it looks like I underestimated the Seattle defense clearly because I said that they didn't have enough DBs to cover the weapons of the Broncos. But clearly it was the opposite. They didn't have enough weapons to get open.
Right, and not to make it, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of comparisons and this and that, but I think the one thing that separates Seattle's defense from whoever you want to say is it's not only that they have these great cover corners who are great cover corners but also physical, but their safeties can cover, not just tackle.
Earl Thomas got range and read range.
And I don't think a lot of people recognize that. Like you said, you underestimated them, but their safeties can cover, your good receivers. It's not like they're out there saying, hey, we need you to go, take care of these running backs. And like they got a safety who they can put on a number one receiver if need be. But they don't need that. They can take off, they got guys who can guard the 1 and the 2. So that really good safety is covering your third option or your fourth option. And like you said, you're sitting there trying to figure out, well, nobody's open. We can't get our running game going because we're so far down now. What do we do?
And Seattle took Denver completely out of their game plan. No Sean Moreno ran the ball 7 times for like 15 yards. I mean, he was a no-show. I don't even know if Eric Decker even got on the plane. Julius Thomas, he's the second best third in that top 5 of tight ends in the league right now?
He's been destroying teams this year.
And he was a no-show. And I think with the Seattle defense, they haven't played in an elite group of receivers. So everybody kind of figured they haven't really been challenged. Who's the best receiver they played this year? Well, maybe Michael Crabtree?
And that's true, but you also have to remember if you go back and look at how they did the Saints and Jimmy Graham.
Yeah. Okay,
that's a great example because they shut Jimmy Graham, who is he's the best tight end in the league. I mean, let's just say
he might be the second best receiver.
Yeah. I mean, and he was just
wiped
invisible.
out of the game.
And they basically and that's what I think the Seahawks defense does. They basically say, okay, we're going to take this person out of the game, and basically they say, look, you're going to beat if you're going to beat us, it's not going to be with this guy.
Yeah.
And that's what they did to the Broncos. The only thing with the Broncos is usually the Broncos are like, hey, no problem, because I got this guy. I got Demaryius Thomas. I'll throw to Decker. But
Welker
they got guys who
it was crap yards.
They were smothering those guys too. So they were just all the way discombobulated to me, and it was just I've never seen, or no one has all year seen the Broncos offense be handcuffed the way they were in the Super Bowl.
And again with the middle part, when they're catching the ball, they were immediately getting hit.
There was no yards after catch.
No.
The yak
most
was
of them they were
minimal.
dropping it. And that's what the Broncos do. They get them short routes, pick you, run a little underneaths, and the Cam Chancellor stood there, literally waited for Wes Welker to touch the ball
and
before he smacked him.
Well, and you could tell that you could tell the fact that the physicality of the game, I think, surprised the Broncos and definitely surprised the receivers because
I think I seen a couple of them duck. Hey, don't throw it this way.
And even that play, Demaryius Thomas finally gets a catch and he gets going up and down the field. Guy comes up, punches the ball right out of his hand. And how many times have you seen that happen this year? It was so non-Bronco offense like. It was just it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe not only the way the offense was just controlled by the Seattle defense, but on top of that, the game got completely out of control
because of the defense.
And because the defense is what started that whole process. It was complete chaos on their part in a good way.
And I thought the Broncos defense played a really good first half.
I thought they did too.
But I think they got to that point where
they got to that defeated point. They
were like, okay, because Russell Wilson, we're going to get to him in a second, he threw 2 TD passes. One of them, it should not have been a touchdown, period. The guy breaks 5 tackles. That's a lack of effort. That's guys quitting because they know the game's out of hand.
And I think, like you said, the guys were basically at that point like, hey,
you know,
we can't do anything to stop you guys at this point. With the game's out of control,
our offense is doing nothing.
They threw in the white towel and they waved the white flag. But I just felt like, hey, keep playing. And I like I said, that first half I just knew, keep playing. Something's gonna go your way.
Peyton Manning's gonna do something,
and eventually something good's gonna go your way. And that little part, that bubble burst as soon as Percy Harvin took that opening kickoff for the second half back.
And they took no shot out of the game. So they took the passing game away and the defense and the running game away. That's a complete shutdown.
They eliminated the teams. Any weapon they had, they took it away.
Speaking of Russell Wilson, I think he played a good game. He played a smart game. He didn't hurt him. The 2 TDs he threw were kind of, I don't really know. But I'll give him credit for this. He made a lot of big plays on third down.
Well, let me say this, and this might actually surprise a lot of people what I'm about to say, but it really bothers me. Not to hate. I do like Russell Wilson. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he leads his team well. But if you look at the numbers, now you can't necessarily say wins necessarily. Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the way, to me, watching Russell Wilson play, I honestly believe he plays the style of game as someone like Alex Smith.
Yeah.
So for Alex Smith to get so much criticism, he's a game manager and he can't lead and okay, so how come Russell Wilson doesn't get none of that? Because to me, you don't see Russell coming out there throwing for 300 plus yards and 3 or 4 TDs a game.
Yeah.
And yeah, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but again, who does that sound like? Alex Smith.
And DJ, my cousin DJ, posted that question to me actually a couple weeks ago, and I meant to get into it a while ago. He asked me, why does Alex Smith get the game manager tag and Russell Wilson doesn't?
Right.
and my point was, we know what Alex Smith is. He's reached his peak. He's not getting any better. He's not going to get any worse for the next couple of years. But Russell Wilson is a second-year quarterback, and everybody looks like, okay, well, he still has that upside. He's just not
the ceiling hasn't been reached yet.
Yeah,
right.
So that's why he doesn't get the game manager tag. But I told DJ, I think he's just an athletic game manager. He can beat you with his feet. Alex Smith can too, but Russell Wilson's a different type of athlete.
Russell Wilson, if he takes off, is more of a threat than Alex Smith.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, obviously,
and he doesn't do anything to hurt the team. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he has a knack for making that play when you need it.
He does.
So he may play like in the Super Bowl the whole game, first half. He didn't do anything.
No, he was just trying to give the ball to Marshawn Lynch, but that wasn't working. So
then they came down, bam, touchdown. He threw another one. It was that quick, 2 TDs, and the game's over.
Well, and like I said, I discussed this with a few people. If you really go back and you evaluate that game, now granted, points are points. No matter how you get them, no matter how you score them, it doesn't matter. But offensively, if you go back and look at the Seahawks, they really didn't. Now granted, as the game progressed, you got some slot points just because they were winning, and the Broncos' effort was clearly not up to what it should have been.
Game should be.
But at first, like I said, defensively, the Broncos pretty much shut down Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, they took him out of the game 40 yards,
and
he's had 100 yards every playoff game he's played.
And then if you look at it, they shut him down, and then they had a few plays here. A couple guys making some nice plays after the catch, but really for the most part, Seattle offensively did not really do all that much. But again, points are points. So when you have a kick return, you got an interception return, you got the safety, field goal here, field goal there, whatever. And then again, next thing you know, hey man, there's 29 points on the board, and it's only halftime.
And I look at Russell Wilson, and he's in that group of young quarterbacks. Yes, he's won a Super Bowl, but give me Cam Newton, give me Andrew Luck, give me RG3. Maybe give me Kaepernick. Maybe.
Well, no, and you know what? Not to interrupt you, but all those names of guys you just said are really good. But I would argue the Kaepernick argument ahead of those guys as far as just so far progress today, based off of this fact. If you go back and look, Kaepernick, yes, has been in the league 3 years. We know he didn't start as a rookie,
And
He's
he only
playing
played
behind
half a
Alex
season
Smith.
last year, and then
But
this is his first
he's played
full
half a
season.
season last year, took his team to the Super Bowl, and took his team to the NFC Championship this year. There's nobody you can say on those guys of names you just listed who have back-to-back years had that much success. Now, yeah, sure, like you said, Russell's got the Super Bowl.
I'll take.
But
Give me the one I would argue the most is Andrew Luck, because his team is
and that I would agree with.
their offense is not great by no means.
No,
And I call him the comeback kid.
he finds a way.
No matter how far they're down, the Chiefs, perfect example.
They know all about
and
it.
He took a team that was 2-14, took it to the playoffs last year.
Right.
This year, took it to the playoffs again when people were like, "Oh, they'll probably miss it because the team's just not very good."
And he lost his most trusted target
And
to
still
injury,
got
and
it done.
still found a way to manage, the wins and a playoff win behind the, hands and legs of T.Y. Hilton, Colby Fleener, and
Darius Hayward Bay even looked like a receiver.
yeah,
for the week.
So yeah, you definitely have to give Andrew his credit, but
Russell, we got to put. The reason you have to put Russell in there just because of pure wins and now the Super Bowl.
yeah, I mean you can't argue the guy's record. He's got one home loss in I think 15 drives or something like that.
Yeah,
you can't argue that. Wins are wins, and at the end of the day, no matter touchdowns, yards, you want to win, and Russell gets you wins. So it's hard to sit here and argue anybody else.
And on the back end of this, before we get out of here, I just felt like John Fox didn't have them prepared, or I think they had that thing like, we're gonna do what we do because what we do works.
Well, and yeah, I think I don't want to say that the Broncos were overconfident.
I think they're overconfident. I really do.
I mean, and maybe.
And as the offense, when you're dominating like that, and you got the best quarterback, one of them of all time.
Well, I think they became accustomed to, like I said earlier, we're the Broncos. Peyton's our quarterback. We're gonna score a minimum of 20 points. And I think they got used to that because, like I said, now sure they haven't seen a Seattle defense all year. They've been playing lackluster AFC defenses, but it's came so easy to them to put up points to where now you got these guys in your face. They're playing ball. They're hitting you hard. They're playing physical. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, we really got to go out here and play. And I think the Broncos kind of decided to try that too late.
And Peyton was exposed.
Yeah. I mean, the whole offense was really, if you think about it, because like you said, No-Sean was terrible. Pretty much a no-show. And again, yeah, Peyton had some turnovers.
Eric Decker, no-show.
Right. But again, you got offensive linemen literally getting shoved in Peyton's face as he's trying to throw the ball. You haven't seen that this year from the Broncos offense.
And in closing, we've heard a lot of talk about Peyton's legacy. Where does this put his legacy in your mind?
Well, again, to me, I really don't like the whole Peyton's the best regular season QB thing. Now, granted, he doesn't have the best playoff record.
But neither is Brett Favre, and everybody still loves him.
It loves Brett Favre, and he's only got one Super Bowl ring.
Just like that. And Dan Marino has none. He's still widely considered one of the greatest of all time.
And honestly, like you said about Brett Favre, and I'm on record as I loved Brett Favre. I really did. But if I was going into a game, I would rather take Peyton because as much as Brett Favre, as you enjoy watching him play, but he was that guy where you almost just knew, like, okay, something bad's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
And as soon as you got that feeling,
Brett
dropped back and throws up a pick.
Peyton's had that feeling like something good's going to happen.
Well, and with Peyton, like I said, I trust Peyton because I know Peyton, he's prepared, he's studied. Now, granted, it's hard to say that considering the performance we just saw in the Super Bowl, but we all know nobody prepares for a game like Peyton does. And like I said, as far as his legacy is concerned, to me,
he's still one of the greatest.
I'm not going to sit here and say Peyton is the greatest quarterback of all time because I don't think he's. If he would have won the Super Bowl, hands down, that's his.
He's firmly in the top 6.
I would give him best of all time if it was me. Yeah. But seeing as that he is only 1-2 in the Super Bowl and his playoff record isn't the best. Again, you can't.
11-12.
You can't just ignore
5 MVPs.
The man just obliterates defenses and carves them mentally. Yeah. And he doesn't throw the ball well anymore. You can see the ball has lost the pop, the speed, the velocity. But again, he's out there throwing 55 touchdowns on a half an arm of what he used to have, and he still produces. And nobody can argue to me. I'd rather have name your quarterback instead of Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
you'd rather have Peyton.
You'd rather have Peyton Manning. especially if you're the Chiefs. Backdoor shot. Sorry, Chiefs fans. But
I'm not taking no shots at Chiefs fans today.
I will.
I'm not doing it.
But that's going to do it for us for this edition, Super Bowl recap.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the homie Kel coming in and sitting in for Andre.
Yeah, definitely.
Next week, gonna be looking into the Royals preview show. May have another special guest for you guys.
Go Hosmer.
And hopefully another good year from the boys in blue. So thanks for listening. We're out.